This is why inclusion is important, because when you start to meet people who are
not like you,
they're not from the same background. Exactly. You start to learn more about other people, other races, other cultures. So I think I just answered my question. Inclusion is mandatory.
It's mandatory. Okay.
It is mandatory.
Yeah, when you think about it, so that's what I said. When you think about it in that regard of people just not knowing what they don't know, millions and billions of people are seeing whatever you're marketing. So yes, you need different cultures in that room, on that board, telling you and saying, giving input as to how it makes sense and how it doesn't make sense.
All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the More Than a Side Hustle podcast, where we help 9-to-5ers create more impact, income, and influence outside their jobs. My name is Anthony.
And I'm Janoka.
And today we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about today?
Something a little different, more of like a, I don't know if it's a popular topic, depends on what you listen to, but something I came across on TikTok that the makeup girlies are talking about.
So I was someone that's not a makeup girly listen to this episode.
Because we're basically going to talk about...
Or wear makeup.
Okay, we're going to talk about... What's the word? Inclusivity. That's what we're going to talk about. Diversity, inclusivity. And that's something that has been big, I think, since COVID started, about different companies stating that they're going to do more. And that's essentially what the topic is about. But the story stems from something I saw on TikTok. So
before we get into that, if you guys didn't know, our goal is to help you create more income outside your jobs. And one of the ways we did that outside our jobs was creating a cleaning business. We had $114,000 of debt, and we used our cleaning business to help us pay off some of that debt. And I've been taking more, I don't know if you guys have been seeing on social media, but I've been taking more like direct calls. People who are interested in joining Cleaning Business University. We teach you how to start and scale a cleaning business. And I've been taking more coaching calls. And one of the topics that came up during those coaching calls, and I thought it was very important, and it's funny because the lady that I was talking to, I sent out an email about this topic, and it kind of resonated with her. I was like, yeah, because it's your story. But if she's watching this, we spoke about it already, and she's good. But we realized that one of the things that we always say in life, especially as we get older, we have kids, we're like, one of the things we want to do is spend more time with family, spend more time with friends. We want to travel more. We want to enjoy life. And we were having this conversation, and one of the reasons she didn't want to, enroll was like, one of the reasons she wanted to enroll was that she wanted to spend more time with her family. And I was like, that's great. But she said, give me a few months to think about it. And I was like, wait, isn't that like backwards?
Okay.
Isn't that backwards? We're like, all right, if there's a vehicle that could help you get to that goal a lot faster, which is spending time with family, spending time with friends, and traveling, why would it take you a few months, which is more time wasted, more time which is going to be thought about, more time that you sitting there, you're waiting for a sign from God. And at the end of the day, God's not going to come down and give you a sign. He's not going to come down and say, you should do this or you should not do that. He's going to give you or show you exactly what you want to do or what you don't want to do. Because I had the same exact conversation with someone, and they was like, oh, there's a sign, like their card wasn't working. And they was like, oh, that was a sign from God saying that we probably shouldn't do it. And I had someone saying, oh, I got your email. And I was like, oh, it's a sign from God that I should do it. It's like, he's literally telling you what's
people take signs how they want to take signs.
Exactly.
It's very subjective.
God is literally telling you what you already have inside your heart, like good, bad, and different. So you're going to take those signs to be whatever you want it to be. So instead of us sitting around waiting for a sign from God to do something, or a sign from anyone to do something, the sign is going to be internalized. The sign is going to be whatever we want to do. That's literally the sign. So I want us to start thinking about the way that we're approaching situations and stop leaving it to external matters. Stop putting it in other people's hands, but start thinking about it as a way for you to get to your goal and whatever you want to achieve in life.
Okay. So are you bringing that back to what we're about to discuss, or?
Yeah. So Janoka brought this conversation up while we were having lunch, and I was like, this would be a dope conversation for the podcast. And we had differing views, and it's funny because we always have these topics, and it's like, damn, this would be a good podcast topic. Well, we live together, obviously, so we're always talking. But we stopped the conversation, and we said we would pick this up on a podcast. So bring it up. Let's go.
So the conversation started with a Black influencer, creator, however you would like to name them, out here in Dallas. She went on to TikTok and basically said that she wasn't going to go on a trip that a company was happening. So the name of the company is Tarte, which is a makeup company, a big multi-million-dollar company. I think I have one product from them. She wasn't going to go on a trip that she was offered to go on because it was a trip to F1. I don't know if you guys know about that. It's racing in Miami.
Formula One.
I didn't even know was happening, but yeah, it's happening in Miami. Essentially, the first email she received said that she would be there for the big event, which is on Sunday. And then as the emails went on, it said that she was only going to be there like Friday to Saturday. She spoke to some counterparts, meaning some friends, and that are going as well. And they're like, no, I'm leaving on Monday. So they got to stay the whole weekend. So she figured maybe it was a fluke in the conversation, or maybe there was a mistake that happened. So she reached back out to the company saying, hey, originally we said I'll be there. And they're like, oh, no, you're still going to go on Saturday to see one of the races, but not the big event. So she decided to make a TikTok saying that she felt like she was being treated differently because of who she is, because she's a black creator. Now, the reason that this resonates with a lot of people is because Tarte has had a lot of issues in the past about their big brand trips, or just them in general, including black people. Their shades, their ranges, the dark was not dark at all. And there's so many different things that went into it that they've always gotten in trouble, if you will, about that. And the owner went out and said a comment just saying basically that she didn't think that it was a big deal. It was just a thought, like every girl would get to experience a club, seeing the race in some point of the weekend, so on, and that's it. That's how the owner kind of addressed it. So I was just telling him about that conversation, and he was just basically like,
I'll tell him outside.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
What's the point of the podcast if I'm not going to talk?
That's true. So that's the gist of the conversation of like, this is what's happening in the makeup world, if you will.
So men, if you're listening to this, this is not about anyone that's listening to this, for the men, or anyone in our, so this will be similar to them sending you to the NBA All-Star Weekend, and NBA All-Star Weekend the game is on Sunday.
The East Coast versus West Coast.
The big game is on Sunday. East Coast, West Coast. That's a game we all care about. Probably the game we only care about. Well, it depends on the
like
contest and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But this would be like you go on Friday and Saturday. You get the rookie game, and you get the little baby games or whatever. But then they say, oh, Sunday you can't go to the All-Star game. We're not paying for it. And that was kind of the way we thought about it. But the conversation came up where the CEO was kind of like, well, that wasn't our intention. And we understand. Maybe it wasn't their intention. It is ways you can go about it.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
No. So we were in the conversation we were having. I was saying that if it was a miscommunication, which is what the CEO said, I would then honor it. Like if I originally wrote in the first email that you would be there for this big event, you would honor it. If you go in the supermarket and something says it's $3, you get to the front and it says it's $7, and they go back and see that it's showing $3, they usually honor it. So it's just one person that you've changed this itinerary for. Now, this is the only person that spoke up about it. I don't know if it's just one person. Then why not just honor it for good faith is how I kind of see it, instead of making it just like, oh no, we're scaling back on you, if you will. And something that she said was that she knows that she doesn't have as much followers as some of these other creators do, because that's what it's all about. It's all about you showcasing that you're on this trip with this brand and people wanting to buy. But she feels like she should be treated the same way, which I agree. If I'm being invited to the same place as everyone else, I should be treated the same way as well. So that was the full thing. And your thought was?
I disagree. You shouldn't be treated the same as everyone else, because if we're bringing you here based on the currency that you could provide, and the currency that you could provide is attention. So if you guys didn't know, this day and age, it's not about how much money you have. It's not about how much that you had. It's about the attention
specifically
that you
with
have.
These brands, at least.
Like literally, all social media is attention. Like this podcast here is us getting your attention for 30 to 40 minutes at a time based on how we record. Instagram is about attention. That's how they pay you. You're paid based on how much attention you could bring, how many eyeballs you could bring, how much time you could bring. This is why the Super Bowl slots are so expensive. It's like if a Super Bowl brings in 100 million listeners or watchers a minute or whatever it is for the Super Bowl, you're paying those slots that you're paying for the commercials are attention based. So you're paying not based on it being the Super Bowl, you're paying based on the eyeballs that the Super Bowl brings you.
Right.
So with them bringing these influencers in, we are giving you treatment based on the value that you could bring us, and the value is not going to be the same. So A, B, and C, if I say A is low and if I say C is low and A is high, I'm treating a person that could bring the most attention, the most eyeballs, the most publicity to my brand than the C person. And that's my take on it.
Then it's kind of becomes in like, why mix us then? Why not just have A's one time, C's another time? Like, why mix the thing? But the whole point of mixing is to show that you do inclusivity and have diversity, basically. That's the whole point of it. So I don't know that I feel like you should separate them based off of that. But I think everybody has an understanding that, okay, this person has 1 million followers and I have 30,000. Duh. Like, I can get that. I can understand that. But because they have initially, my thing is because they initially mentioned her going to that Sunday event, they should still have her go. Like, why take it back is my thought.
I don't disagree that there should be, I don't disagree that since they brought everyone there, they should be treated the same. I'm disagreeing that if I bring everyone here, it's not like I'm bringing everyone here because they have the same currency. I'm bringing everyone here because there's a certain thing I want from certain people.
From everyone, though. Want the same thing from everyone, technically. You want them to show that they are an F1 formula with Tarte makeup brand. That's what you want from every single person, regardless if you have 30 or if you have 1 million. That's what I want from you. Just make sure that you're posting. Whatever is in their contract, I don't have any idea of that. How many times you have to post, what you have to post, that's a different story. I don't know. But the point is, you got to post that you're here enjoying with us. So they want the same thing from everybody. Yeah. So it's like, then why not treat me the same way? Or don't bring me at all. Like, no one wants to feel less than, regardless of what I can bring. No one wants to feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, even if I know in the back of my head, I don't want that that feeling going in that they're treating me a certain way because of I don't have as much money or I don't have as much followers. That's what I'm saying. But your thought was something else too.
I think that a lot of times when you see, especially during the Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and those conversations that were happening, the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, racial tensions were high, and everyone had these quote unquote.
They made managers and directors for their.
They started doing
D&I.
What's the name of that? They put a black person in charge of diversity. It was a diversity. Chief of diversity and stuff like that, whatever. They started putting these titles of people in place to say that, all right, not only are we hiring people who are minorities, but also putting them in positions of power, which means that they're just giving a black person a title to do black things. Like, that's
what the hell is black things?
If I'm putting a black person in charge of chief of diversity, I'm assuming that they're gonna be
they're going to bring black people in, you mean?
Yeah, like that's all they're doing. So they're putting a figure in a position to create this diversity. But in reality, they're not creating these positions to show that we're a diverse organization. They're not doing these incentives to show that we're diverse. We're checking off a box here.
And like, that was the conversation.
We're checking off a box, and we're like, all right, well, and remember that conversation that we had about the company that said that, I forgot what it was, a Dallas-based, Texas-based company.
Maybe 2 episodes ago.
And they said that they were hiring people based on this, and this, and they said, "Oh yeah, for this position, we only want in small
only
font.
Caucasian people. Don't tell the public."
Yeah, I don't know if that was real or not, but a lot of companies are just putting these people in position because they need that quote unquote person of color. Yeah, so that they can put on the website, that they can showboat and say, "Yeah, we got this black person. We know it. Like it's literally there. You got a board of directors of 20 people, and one person's black." It's one of the things we're looking at when we're looking for schools for Alani too. Is like, all right, let's see your board of directors. You talk about diversity. Let's see what your true diversity will include people of color who are actually in power, and not just positions of power. No, they're actually in power. So we're not just putting a title on you. We're not just putting a rank on you. No, you can actually have power. So I think they're just doing it to check the box.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, well, say what else that you said.
I'll get there when I'm ready.
Oh, well, I'm ready for you to jump to it.
You can't tell me how to approach my conversations. So when we're having these conversations about diversity, one of the things that we are very intentional about is doing things that we want to do because we genuinely want to do. If we don't want to do it, we're not going to do it. We're not going to fake it. We're not going to song and dance it. So I had the conversation with John. I was like, listen, I am okay if a company says they don't want you based on whether it's the criteria that they say, and if one of those criteria is really internally a issue of color, F them. Yeah. I remember when I went to the club. Remember when we went to the club when we first moved down in Dallas? And this club they didn't say they didn't want black people there. They said, I don't want people who wear do-rags. I don't want Jordans. I don't want ripped jeans. I don't want baseball caps. I don't want basketball jerseys. They literally named
stipulations on this
every
rules
single
list.
thing that they've ever seen a black person wear throughout their life, or urban clothing. And this wasn't an upscale club. This wasn't a club where you gotta wear hard bottom shoes or a dress shirt or anything like that. So I was extremely pissed. I was mad as hell because you got in with.
I had like bright Nike sneakers on. I actually had jeans that had a rip by the knee.
Yeah, and I had Jordans
an hour after you because we weren't together.
And my Jordans were probably one of the most expensive Jordans that you could have that are like Jordan 1s. They were really expensive. So it wasn't like they were running the mill like everybody could get these. I got these really expensive Jordans on. But they said you can't get in because you got Jordans. I'm like, all right, cool. I left it alone. But I was extremely pissed. And after I came, I was like, you know what? We went to another club that had an amazing time. I was like, F them. Yeah. I was like, I'm literally like, whatever. I'm not going back. They lost my business. I kept it moving.
I think the thing about it is that, like I was telling him, in this makeup world with these creators that, they do beauty content and stuff like that, there's not, I really only could name one, and now I can name two makeup brands that are black owned, which is Fenty and Pat McGrath. I don't know anybody else that are black.
McGrath, that sounds like a country.
Yeah, no, I don't think I said her name right, but it's Pat. She's like Jamaican or something.
I'll get her name right while you talking.
It's Pat, something Pat M. Anyway, Fenty and her are the only black makeup brands that I know of. And I don't know that any of them do brand trips, right? And so if you are in this space, you're in the beauty space, you want to go on these brand trips. It looks fun. It looks like a good time. I want to meet people that I've seen on Instagram and that I've, bumped shoulders with via in the digital world. So you want to be included in that, right? So I understand that it's easy to say F them, but then if you F them, where does that leave you? Like, you're not invited to anything then, right? Because there's not many, it's Pat McGrath, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's not many makeup brands that are doing these trips or doing anything to kind of feel like, okay, let me go and meet people, a happy hour, and get together and all that type of stuff. So if you say F them, then you're kind of screwed. Which some people have. Some people have said like they have F them. But then another side of it is people have had conversations with them. There's been conversations of ways that they can work on including black people. And they have seemed to make changes because they had another recent trip in Turks and Caicos and there were black people there. It's not as much as white people, but that's in life, I feel like. And they had a few black creators there. So if you look at that trip, you may say, oh, they are making the effort. They are making the changes that they promised and said that they would. Because I feel like you can give companies an opportunity to do better once you point things out. So I think it's easy to say F it, but then it's harder for someone in the space because you say F it and then what?
You said F it like 20 times. I was listening to you.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm saying you say F it and then what?
Now we got to put explicit on this podcast title.
Really?
No.
I'm just
saying. You just kept saying it. I'm like, she going to keep saying it?
No, but then what?
So, listen. You mentioned a part that I do want to highlight is that they're, like you said, that companies make the intention of trying to do right. Sometimes you really don't know. And you have to be informed. And I think that's very important to be informed. Like she was trying to inform them of their mistakes. And if you give a person enough space, if someone does something once and you're like, all right, cool, they made a mistake. They do it twice. All right, maybe they made another mistake. You do it 3 times. All right, cool, you're doing this on purpose. But sometimes people genuinely do not know how or when or why to include people. They may feel like, let me give you an example. I don't even want to go too internal with this one. So if a company is hiring people, right? And let's say 99% of the people they hire are white. And we're having this conversation because we want you guys to always think about your jobs and always think about doing something outside your job so that you can make sure that you never feel like you have to rely on somebody else to make your income. And if you do, you should always have something just in case. So if a company hires 99% of white Caucasian people, and it's only because, that's just the people who apply. Mm-hmm. Are they in the wrong for that?
If that's just the people that applied, I guess not.
So now the question would be, well, why don't you have any, black people? They probably never even thought about having a black person on. Like, this is who applies, this is who we get. So now you have the one person who mentions it, like, oh, you guys should think about having some diversity. I said, okay, what does that mean? Oh, I will make sure our next hire is very intentional about, we make sure our next hire is intentional about being a black person. So you bring them in, and now you got 99% of people and 1% is black. Mm-hmm. So then you always get that.
Which is almost everywhere.
It's always going to be a continuation of get more, get more, get more. It's like if it's not on their radar, it's not on their mindset. Mm-hmm. We have to figure out a way, like you mentioned, like it's only Rihanna and Pat. She's been in the Times 100 most influential people. She's been.
I mean, she does great makeup.
She's been in business for over 2 decades. She does more than makeup. You should Google it.
I know who she is. I'm the one who told you that.
I just told you more about her than you knew.
I know her.
But this is why I am so happy that we're in this space. Like you have people putting out financial literacy so that we could go. Now it's not gonna be something that's happening overnight.
Well, that's the thing. It's not overnight, but it also feels like for some, and sometimes I battle with that back and forth. Like, is it ever really gonna change? Maybe not in our lifetime. And it's like you fight for things maybe that you're not here to see it. But I don't know that even in our lifetime that we will see the, I don't know, what's the equality that we're hoping for. I don't think that would ever happen personally. And maybe that's me being negative.
No, I don't know that it would ever happen. It's not going to happen in our lifetime. But this is why our podcast and our platform and so many other platforms are so important, in my opinion, is that there are tools that we are learning, that we are sharing, so that you have a person that does. We're actually going to have someone on our, I don't know when this is going to come out, but someone on our podcast that actually was like doing, that created their own salon and stuff like that. But you get the information from these shows, from these podcasts, from these Instagram pages, whatever it is, financial literacy, you start to learn about it. And that conversation is very important. It's actually connected to this one. You start to learn about ways to help people in your demographic, people in your race,
your community.
And even think about our businesses. Now, is that an intentional thing? No, it's just people who gravitate towards us. Now, is that necessarily somebody, like we had somebody who's like, oh, everybody who's on your show or whatever is black? It's like, these are people who gravitate towards us.
Hello. We are black too.
So think about it. Like, it's going to be a natural gravitation towards people that look like you, sound like you, act like you. It's going to be natural.
That brings up a good point.
Go ahead.
This was something that came up with Housewives. So with Beverly Hills Housewives, I don't know if you guys know anything about it, whatever. They brought on Garcelle, which is, what's her name? Fancy from the Jamie Foxx show. She's been on the season, I think, maybe 3 seasons now. And it just
even
felt
think about
like...
that. Hold on. Don't lose your thought. Even just think about that. Jamie Foxx show. What is our demographic? We're talking about the Jamie Foxx show. We're not talking about a Friends or a Frasier. We're talking about the Jamie Foxx show.
Yeah.
This is what we watch. So we're going to attract and talk to people who just naturally sound and look like us, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
But that could be an inside joke. Somebody may say, what the hell is Jamie Foxx? Like I said, well, who the hell is Pat McGrath?
Yeah.
And
she's in our community.
Yeah. So continue.
So anyway, she's brought onto the show, and it just felt like she was just the token black girl that they brought
Definitely
onto
was, because I watched
that
a few
show
episodes.
Because none of them were friends with her, and I get it. Not everybody that they bring onto the show knew are friends with someone, but generally it's usually a friend of the show, someone that's on the show that they're bringing on, like she's been around at least, something like that. One of them knew her through modeling over the years, but they weren't friends with her. So they brought her on, and then now they're bringing another black person on. I don't know the person's name, whatever the case may be. And me and my friend have the discussion, like, honestly, I am fine with them not having a black person on the Beverly Hills franchise because it's just not realistic. I'm not saying there's not rich people in Beverly Hills. I'm not rich black people in Beverly Hills, but in their circle, that's just not who they're friends with. How many, if you think of yourself as a black person, how many white people or just either other culture friends do you have? So then why do
that you hang around
with that you would call a friend? And if it's one, okay, don't be like, oh, well, I got a white friend, right? But how many do you really have? And so that conversation happens as well. Like, don't force things. And I think because of the day and age that we're in, Andy and just the world, they're like, well, we have to have the diversity because if not, it's an issue. People are side-eyeing you. People are side-eyeing your businesses. Just like if Potomac or Atlanta is mostly black people or all black people, if they put a white person in there, it would be like forced. Like, that's just not what they attract because they are black women. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that they should exclude anyone, but in certain scenarios, kind of what you're saying this is what I attract. This is what I know. This is what I'm around because of who I am. And I think the same for other cultures, the same for white people. That's what they attract. That's what they're around because of who they are. However, the issue lies when you say that you're going to include people, when you say you're going to do better and you don't. That's where the whole thing, I think, issue happens when it comes to Tarte, because they say they're going to do, and then they start to include, and then it still feels like, well, this ain't quite it. I think that that's where they may have to work on better, or even maybe creators have to set better expectations of knowing what they're going into. But I think that's what the conflict is. Not necessarily just inviting me, but treating me differently is an issue.
So is inclusion mandatory? Maybe that's a topic. Maybe that's the title of the podcast. That's actually going to be it. Is inclusion mandatory? In your opinion, mandatory? As an owner, it is mandated that you include this type of person in your business.
Well, you can't exclude people, because then that's the issue. You can't say like I'm only having a black-run business.
Well, no. Okay. Let me rephrase that. That's actually a good point. So you're not excluding everyone. Yeah, I'm saying if everyone who applies to your company
is only black,
if everyone who applies to your position is a minority person, because more than likely, just even our Cleaning Business University, 99% of people we work with
or that buy our course
are black people. And it's not anything wrong with anyone else trying to get the information. It's just because they just gravitate towards people, and it's just like me.
Them.
When we was looking for a debt freedom story, we was looking for people who are in the financial literacy space. We were looking for people who are trying to pay off debt, trying to learn more about financial literacy, trying to talk about generational wealth. I didn't want to go to other people. I want to be around and hear from people that look like me, because it made it more obtainable to me. It made it more attainable to know that someone that came from the projects, more than likely people who are from the projects are probably going to be black.
Well, the stat really says, but go ahead.
Their family is more than likely, growing up on food stamps. They probably lived in a, 1-bedroom apartment with 4 or 5 people. They probably didn't have a car growing up, and they probably, this is actually everything that you're not, but
literally everything I'm not, but I grew up in the projects too. But hey,
but I'm saying these. When you have people who sound like you, come from the same demographic as you, it feels more obtainable to you. Yeah. Just naturally. Yeah. So when I say that, are these things, and I say is inclusion mandatory, that's why I'm asking.
I think it really depends. I think the professional answer is yes, but the realistic answer, I don't know that inclusion is mandatory, because certain things I don't think that everyone needs to be included in. I don't know. I don't feel like everyone needs to be included in everything. Yeah, I guess the answer is no for me. For me, inclusion isn't mandatory, but I guess it depends on in what realm are you talking about? Is it mandatory for work job in the professional 9-to-5 space? Is it mandatory for what exactly? Is it mandatory for me as my group of friends to have someone, for what exactly?
So then you go down that slippery slope of not having anyone from a diverse background, and you start to miss things.
Exactly.
So we were talking about the Kardashians and that whole, was it Kardashians?
What was it?
Yeah, it was like it was black. It was a black cop.
Was it?
I don't remember.
Anyway, go ahead.
But it was like if you had somebody of color on that writing staff on that board, you're like, this is probably not cool. And then remember,
well, we don't know that they didn't have somebody of color.
So we know. Remember when H&M did the coolest monkey in the jungle
on a black kid?
On a black kid, and it was like if you had somebody of another color, you probably would have said that wasn't cool. So I think inclusion is definitely important so that you understand the different perspectives. But then again, is it mandatory?
I think these companies need it. So yes, I'm going to say these companies need it, because most of these companies are ran by people that have no idea about our culture, but our culture moves the mark. Our culture is everything. So I'm going to say yes in that regard. I think about,
because money is not a color. Money is green.
No, I know, but I just think,
well, green is a color, but
I just think that when it comes to black culture, and I saw something about this, like we are a $1 billion movement just because almost everything that we do blows up. When it comes to TikTok dancing, when it comes to the way we dress, just certain things blows up. Food, everything events, is restaurants. Us. So I do think in those things you need it. And I think about...
Because they want the black dollar?
Well, because they're doing what we do. So then you need us in it if you're going to try to replicate it, is what I'm saying. And I think about... The reason why I say you need it is because I think about one time you had mentioned that someone in Dallas had never heard of Rosa Parks at 25, 30 years old. And I'm like, okay, that sounds absurd coming from Brooklyn, New York as a black woman, or maybe just coming from New York, right? But they really just didn't know. So you don't, so it's foolish. It's this phrase, it sounds foolish, like you don't know what you don't know. And it's true. So when it comes to maybe these other cultures, they don't know that the monkey ain't it, right? And some people may. I know a lot of us from the big cities are going to be like, what are you talking about? Yes, they do not. And I promise you they don't. I promise you. And Dallas is a big city now.
You got to get out when you get out your bubble and you start to meet. This is why inclusion is important, because when you start to meet people who are
not like you,
they're not from the same background. Exactly. You start to learn more about other people, other races, other cultures. So I think I just answered my question. Inclusion is mandatory.
It's mandatory, okay?
It is mandatory.
Yeah, when you think about it, so that's what I said. When you think about it in that regard of people just not knowing what they don't know, then yes, you need to have other people around to expand that. And that's why I said with these big businesses, you're marketing not just to your one culture. If you're just marketing to white people, maybe you don't need anybody else in it. But you're marketing to millions, billions of people. Pepsi, H&M, millions and billions of people are seeing whatever you're marketing. So yes, you need different cultures in that room, on that board, telling you and saying, giving input as to how it makes sense and how it doesn't make sense.
But just in case people decide that it's not mandatory, this is why you need to create your own.
Yeah, which what you said that, and you was like, I understand that sounds like a
it's like, oh, everybody can't create their own makeup line, and I understand that, and we aren't there yet where it's a bunch of different black $1 billion brands, but I feel like we will get there. Well, we won't get there during our time, but if we keep taking the information, we keep applying it, we keep sharing it, we keep trying to get to that next level, I think we will be there. We won't. And the young lady who was excluded from the event, and I hope that she gets what's due to her, and she gets included. I hope Rihanna picks her up. I hope Pat McGrath, Pat McGraw. I hope Mrs. Pat. I'll just say Mrs. Pat picks her up, and I hope she gets $1 million and 1 million followers and 1 million subscribers and everything she wants in this world. But until then, we have to continue to create our own, so that we don't have to feel like we're excluded from certain things.
So it's twofold. We have to create our own, but then we also have to let these people know what they're doing is not okay.
Yeah.
And kudos to her for even saying and speaking up, because I think she deactivated her TikTok, they said, at this point, because you're going against a multi-million-dollar brand. And you know what that's like. So kudos to her for even speaking out and being comfortable to say, like, I won't stand for this. I won't be second to no one. Essentially is what she said.
So continue to create your own. That's why we started a 7-figure cleaning business. If you guys want to learn more about how to start and scale a cleaning business so that you can live the life that you want to live, tap into cleaningbusinessuniversity.com so that you can have a just in case you are excluded from something that you probably shouldn't have been excluded from. So,
and make sure you're subscribing, sharing, and commenting, and letting people know where you're hearing more about the gems. Please, please, please continue to share. Thank you for those that take time out and comment on our YouTube videos, or time out and write us a review on Apple. We appreciate that. So thank you very much.
And we'll see you next week. Peace.